Robots and mecha is a complex subject matter, but it doesn't have to be.
To invent believable surface details, you have to think like a 3D artist. I'm going to show you how I carve a simple shape into a dynamic and compelling form.
So the first thing that you want to do is define what your form is with contour lines. So I'm going to do a contour line here and then another contour line in the center. So I'm going to start with parting lines and decorate the surface almost graphically with parting lines. So I'm going to start with one right here. And this is actually a very fun exercise, is where you kind of cut into a surface just with parting lines and define how that's going to work. Now we can start our embossing and debossing. For those of you who aren't familiar with it, it's basically just a silhouette or a shape that gets sunken in or pulled out of your main surface. Let's put maybe a faded emboss feature right here. So I'm just going to define kind of the shape of what's going to be raised up off of here. And then I'm just going to draw a parting line right here. Maybe we'll even have this edge go up further on this as well. And notice how I'm adjusting my contour lines to the change in surface area. You know what, we'll have this maybe just go down like this and maybe transition to that bottom edge so we don't break the bottom silhouette. And then right here, this is a bit of embossed feature off of the part break. You know what if we had another embossed feature, maybe another surface where this is very round. Let's just flatten it out like we cut into it. Make it raise out a little bit. And then of course, being that this is mechanical, we may want to make it symmetrical. So we'll put that same embossed feature on this area right here. And again, jump in with the contour lines. Be mindful of your perspective lines as well. Again, we're not looking for perfection, but we are looking for a level of believability. At least we want to be believable enough in our perspective that our wrong perspective is not distracting.
This lesson comes from my course called Learn to Draw Robots and Mecha. In it, I share the skills and techniques I have found essential for drawing robots and mechanical objects of any kind. Check it out at proko.com/toyeggogo.
So let's put a fastener right here, and we'll make it a flush fastener. It's the beauty of Photoshop, is you get to try out your freehand ellipses over and over. Actually, this is a little bit recessed, and recessed means it's inside the form as opposed to flush. So let's just go with a recessed fastener right there. And then let's do a debossed feature right here just for the heck of it. So again, we just define the silhouette of what's going to be debossed, and then we just draw in how it connects to the main surface. So next, let's do another debossed feature right here. And within that debossed feature, we will have a louver or an air vent. So we're cutting in. Okay, and then let's just make a little bit of a open hole here. And we'll deboss again. Keep defining those contour lines and those spring lines. Well, let's go a bit further. Why don't we do a flange? So I'm going to just draw a flange that actually comes out of this surface. And who knows what that flange is for? I don't know. So it's a weird oblong shape. This could literally be anything. But, I don't know how many of you have done 3D surface modeling, particularly in NURBS, but a lot of these techniques are very NURBish. NURBish sounds insulting. You're kind of drawing on this surface almost like you're working with NURB type modeling. So here we have our flange, and keep working with those spring lines and those contour lines. And let's erase away a little bit of our silhouette, our main silhouette. And no one says you have to stick with the silhouette. You're carving and sculpting your silhouette. You can get rid of pieces of it. So I'm just going to make some good silhouette lines right here. Thicken this up a bit, just so we have a contrast between our contour lines, parting lines, and silhouette lines. So everything's reasonably well defined. Okay, so let's make maybe a through hole here, but let's make that through hole in a detent. So I'm just going to kind of play around with it. There's our through hole, our surface wall thickness right here. And then, again, go in with those contour lines. Contour lines are so darn useful. Maybe right here you have some sort of cutout piece in here. But sometimes I break up surfaces and lines with just these black shapes. It just gives it a bit more interest. Let's put some prone fasteners on here as well. Or maybe they're rivets. I almost said rivets. I've been reading Toad and Frog to my youngest kid lately. So I'm a little frog oriented. Now here's something that you can do just by defining the field of a surface change. but you don't really need to put in any contour lines or anything. It's just a very subtle surface cutout that's shown with, a somewhat sharp edge. I think we called it the new edge look way back in the 90s when that sort of aesthetic came out. It's really useful. So right here, let's add maybe something that really extrudes off of this. Maybe give this thing like a little chin. Often in my drawings, you see this chin look. And then just have it kind of connect back up to the form. We're gonna have to cheat our contour lines in perspective. I don't know how we're gonna make this look. Let's keep it simple. There we go. And then let's get rid of our silhouette line in here. And then have a spring line here that just shows this radius. Now what a radius is basically a soft corner. So here's a hard corner right here, soft corner, and that thing right there is a radius. And then the flatter version of that transition is the chamfer, which is just a straight angle like that. So just wanted to throw that out there. And let me do this. You know what, let's have a parting line right here. Sometimes it's fun to put that parting line in this area. I'm gonna radius that edge as well. Boom, spring line, shows the radius, contour line really defines it. And sometimes your contour line and a parting line can be the same thing. It's really fun how these surface details can help you define your form mechanically. And I'm gonna put a couple of flush fasteners in here, arguably flush. And there you have that. And then, you know what? Let's do something really complicated. And I'm going to start with a footprint of how I think something should look. But I don't want this to be embossed. I want this to be like a full radius that actually kind of bleeds off the form. So you see how there's going to be a silhouette line right here. So let's just draw that in there. So there's a little bit of a silhouette line that hangs in over here, which means that this shape actually goes past the main shape right here, or the main surface. So I'm going to draw some contour lines in here just to make it look even more convincing. Now, honestly, one contour line here would have been sufficient, but for the sake of teaching, I'm going to put two in there, and then another one right across there. And then maybe we'll put like some jet outtake or something right there, or exhaust right here, and maybe give it some knurl details. Knurl details, I believe, are just grip details. What else can we add to this? This is just a lot of fun. You know what? Let's carve in this embossed feature right here. Whoops. Oh, okay. I got a little lost there because I never changed this contour line to conform with what's cut in. So let me just change that a little bit. Actually, I'm changing my contour line quite a bit to kind of fix the perspective. And there's some push and pull when you're doing these things. This is a very kind of free-flowing process. But let's cut into this embossed feature so we have an area for fasteners to rest. I'm going to move this debossed feature back a bit. And then I'm going to cut into here, erase this. Now, when I draw with my pen sketches, I start with a ballpoint pen. So instead of erasing what I have, I just kind of lightly sketch in. And then I just go in with a darker line over the light stuff so it doesn't stick out, or it just kind of shows up as more of a texture, a visual texture. But right here I can actually erase because I'm in Photoshop. So, maybe move that back a little bit. And you know what? Let's make a little new edge cut in here. Maybe there's a little bit of indication of a form change there. And there you have it. Okay, what else can we throw in here? Literally, you can just keep going on these forever. Let's maybe put a hinge point right here just for the heck of it. So let's just throw an ellipse in there. Let's just throw an ellipse in there, and then... All right, so we got a kind of a hinge point. You know what? Right here, I'm trying to think. Is there something cool we could do here? Maybe we could put maybe a detent area, and then put maybe a surface hatch or something in there. I don't know how big this thing is. It could fit in the palm of your hand, or you could rest a city on it. I don't know. That's the beauty of concept design. Your freedom of sense of scale is just so high. Let's just leave that there. Maybe make another detent right there. Pretty up that surface a little bit. And then, who knows? Let's thicken up these parting lines a little bit. And maybe put, just to break up the parting line, a little black shape right in there, just to kind of mess around with it a little bit. And then, let's have maybe an access panel. What I'm assuming is a jet area. And you know what? Can mess around with the shape of that. Doesn't have to be perfectly square. And you know what? Let's put some perf detail in here. So maybe that's like a little coolant perf area. And then indicate some dark areas right here. And yeah, there you have it. We have a organic surface that we've kind of carved into. And I'm really looking forward to see what you guys come up with.
If you are a robot and sci-fi drawing fan who wants to take their skills to the next level, or a beginner who doesn't know where to start with this complex subject matter, then this is the class for you.
I'll take you through all the skills necessary to draw a convincing robot, from basic perspective to dynamic silhouettes. Get it at proko.com/toyagogo.